Hey warrior, picture a leader who disappears for 30 days. No news, no messages, no sign of life. What happens in his company? You think it's chaos? That everything falls apart? No, something far more fascinating occurs. People start talking about him. His name comes up in every meeting. Every decision is made while wondering what would he think about this. His absence becomes more commanding, more present than his presence ever was. Now, think about that manager who stays glued to his desk, available 24/7, responding to every email within 2 minutes. Result? He becomes invisible. A piece of furniture nobody even notices anymore. Someone ordinary. This is the paradox that Machiavelli decoded 500 years ago. Being everywhere means being nowhere. You think your constant availability makes you important. It makes you mundane, predictable, ignorable. But your absence forces the world to remember you exist. Leave a comment right now if you've ever felt taken for granted. Just write me. I want to know how many of you are living this right now. Your entire life. You've been sold a lie so beautifully packaged that questioning it seems almost immoral. Here's the lie. The more present you are, the more you matter. Be there for others. Show up, stay connected. Respond quickly. Never make anyone wait. And if you do all this correctly, the world will reward you with respect and power. It's false. The truth is the exact opposite. Constant availability doesn't create respect. It creates contempt. Permanent presence doesn't generate value. It generates indifference. Here's what nobody ever told you. Scarcity is the only currency that never loses its value. Not your kindness, not your dedication, not the number of hours you sacrifice for others. Scarcity. Things that are easy to obtain have no value. Things that are difficult to obtain become precious. And you've made yourself too easy to obtain. You've been playing the game backwards. You thought your visibility created power. It transformed you into background noise. Today, I'm going to reveal 7 principles that Machiavelli would recognize instantly. 7 laws that transform absence into total domination. This isn't theory. This is exactly how the game works. If you already feel this message resonating with you, like this video now. It helps the algorithm tremendously. Principle 1. Strategic disappearance. Let me reveal a psychological mechanism that 99% of people don't understand. When you disappear from someone's life, you don't become forgotten. You become obsessive. The human brain is wired to detect patterns. It's an ancestral survival mechanism. We identify what's predictable, and we feel safe in predictability. But when a pattern breaks, when something constant suddenly disappears, the brain panics. You were there, predictable, reliable, always available. Then suddenly nothing. And their mind absolutely cannot handle this. Why isn't he responding anymore? What changed? Did I say something wrong? All these questions loop endlessly in their head. And guess who they're focused on? You, the person who isn't even there anymore. You've never been more present than when you disappeared. This isn't toxic manipulation. This is pure psychology. Machiavelli formulated it differently to judge the intelligence of a leader. Observe the men who surround him. But the deeper lesson is this. Intelligent leaders know when to be absent. Look at every power figure throughout history. Roman emperors, billionaire CEOs, legendary artists. None of them were powerful because they were constantly accessible. They were powerful because accessing them was nearly impossible. Warren Buffett doesn't respond to your emails. Elon Musk isn't in your DMs. Real leaders understand that scarcity multiplies value. You became the person anyone can reach anytime. Your phone always on. Your notifications always active. That made you common. And common things are never precious. Your constant availability created familiarity, comfort, the assumption that you'll always be. Their strategic disappearance shatters this illusion. It introduces doubt. It creates psychological distance. It forces people to confront a possibility they never considered. Maybe you won't always be available. This doubt is profoundly uncomfortable for them. Good. Discomfort forces people to reevaluate value. Silent withdrawal is the most violent form of communication. It says everything without saying anything. Right absence equals power in the comments if you understand this principle. Principle 2. The trap of total availability. We've been conditioned for this since childhood. Be available. Respond when called. Never make anyone wait. And somewhere in this conditioning, you learn to abandon yourself. Constant availability isn't kindness. It's self-destruct disguised as virtue. It's telling the world, my time has no value. My energy is unlimited. I exist to serve you. This is exactly how they condition conformity. They make you believe that boundaries are selfish, that saying no makes you bad. Machiavelli observed, men are so simple that a manipulator will never lack. Victims, you've been the victim. The lie was that satisfying others' needs made you important. False. It made you useful. And there's a monumental gap between being useful and being precious. Useful people get exploited. Precious people get respected. When you're constantly available, you're not a person. You're a resource to extract, a tool to use. People don't think about tools. They just use them. But when you become unavailable, when access to you becomes limited, you stop being a tool. You become a person they must consider. This change doesn't happen because you announced it. It happens because you embodied it. You stop responding instantly. You stop rearranging your entire life to accommodate everyone. And suddenly, your time meant something. Here's what they never tell you. Saying yes to everything doesn't make people love you more. It makes them respect you less, because deep down, everyone knows that a person without boundaries has no self-respect. You thought being available made you indispensable. It made you forgettable. Important people are hard to reach. Important people understand that scarcity creates demand. Your aura dies a little bit each time you make yourself too available. And here's the cruelest part. People don't even value what you give for free. They expect it. They take it for granted. They start considering it a right. And then when you suddenly can't deliver, they become upset, even angry. That's the psychology of constant availability. It doesn't create gratitude. It creates entitlement. Breaking this pattern requires something most people can't handle: disappointing others, leaving messages unanswered, creating space where there was constant presence. It will feel wrong at first. You'll feel guilty. You're not. You're becoming sane. Because the alternative is spending your entire life responding to other people's agendas, while your own life escapes, unlived. The alternative is reaching the end of your life and realizing you were always available for everyone except yourself. If you've ever sacrificed your own needs to be available for others, write never again in the comments. Principle 3. Social mask vs real identity. Two versions of you coexist right now. The first is the mask, the persona. It's the version you built to survive in society. It smiles at the right times, says the right things, behaves according to expectations. This version isn't you. It's a performance. A lie so well rehearsed it became your default reality. The second version is buried underneath, raw, unfiltered. UNTAMED. It's the self you've repressed your entire life because you learned very early that being authentic has consequences: rejection, judgment, isolation. So you hid it, and the mask became so convincing, you forgot you were wearing it. Psychologists call the process of shedding it individuation. It's the death of the false self and the birth of the authentic one. And it requires one thing most people will never do: disappear from the world that created the mask. Machiavelli understood this. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few truly experience who you are. When you live through the mask too long, you completely lose yourself. You become a reflection of everyone's expectations, a puppet dancing on invisible strings. Your decisions aren't yours. Your thoughts aren't yours. You become controllable. And safety, in this context, is the death of power. Individuation is dangerous. It means rejecting the role society assigned you, standing alone while everyone follows the crowd. Most people can't handle that, but you're not like most people. Strategic disappearance is the first step to killing the persona. When you withdraw from social expectations, when you refuse to play the expected character, the mask starts cracking. It's terrifying, but it's also freedom. In solitude, away from the noise, away from expectations, you finally meet yourself. Not the version created to be loved, the version that exists beneath all the conditioning. This version is uncomfortable. It has sharp edges. It doesn't apologize for existing. This version is uncontrollable. And that's exactly the point. When you detach from society's expectations, when you stop needing their approval, you become dangerous. Not in a violent way, in a way that threatens the entire system of social control. Because the system depends on conformity, on people fearing rejection more than self-suppression. When you stop being afraid, the system loses its grip on you. Write "I am uncontrollable" in the comments if you're ready to kill your social mask. Principle 4. Your energy is your power. Every reaction you give is energy transferred. Every time you respond emotionally to a provocation, you just gave away your power. Here's how manipulation works at its most basic level. The manipulator doesn't win by being right. He wins by making you react, because the instant you react emotionally, you're no longer in control. He pressed a button. You responded. He conditioned you like Pavlov's dog. Machiavelli said it perfectly. The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One must therefore be a fox to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten wolves. The trap isn't the situation itself. The trap is your emotional investment in it. Manipulators are psychic vampires. They feed on reaction. Your anger, your frustration, your need to explain yourself. Every emotional response is a meal for them, and they literally starve without it. That's why silence destroys them so effectively. Not because silence is passive, because silence is refusal. Refusal to play their game. Refusal to give them your emotional energy. Watch what happens when you stop reacting. When someone throws bait and you don't bite, they escalate. They get louder, more aggressive. They say worse things. Why? Because your reaction is their food and you just cut off their supply. This is psychological starvation. The manipulator completely collapses without your participation. His tactics only work if you engage. His power only exists if you give it to him. Remove your energy from the equation and he's left, screaming into the void. Nobody wins a fight against the void. If you've ever silenced a manipulator simply by refusing to react, write silence in the comments. Principle 5. Silence as a weapon. Silence is the most misunderstood weapon in human interaction. People think silence is an absence. It's the exact opposite. Silence is presence concentrated in its most powerful form. Words scatter your power. They reveal your hand. They give others ammunition against you. Silence does none of that. Silence is a perfect mirror. It reflects exactly what the other person brings to it. Watch what happens when you become silent. When you stop explaining yourself, when you let space exist without rushing to fill it, people become profoundly uncomfortable. They start projecting, assuming, imagining. They fill the silence with their own fears, insecurities, guilt. They betray themselves without you saying a single word. Machiavelli said, "It is better to be feared than loved." If you cannot be both. But here's the deeper lesson. Silence creates both fear and fascination simultaneously. Because people can't categorize what they can't understand. They're used to people who explain, who justify, who need to be understood. You need none of that. And that terrifies them. Strategic silence has weight. It communicates authority. It signals that you owe no one an explanation. And that drives people crazy. They want to know what you're thinking. They want to make you talk so they can categorize you, understand you, control you. Your silence denies them all of it. The person who speaks least often speaks loudest. Their words carry immense weight because they're rare. Scarcity creates value. This applies to words as much as anything else. Write "my silence speaks" in the comments if you understand this power. Principle 6. Conscious unavailability. It's a phrase that needs to die today. I'm always there if you need me. It sounds noble. It sounds generous. It's actually self-destructs wrapped in virtuous gift paper. Being constantly available doesn't make you precious. It transforms you into a utility. Value is always, without exception, determined by scarcity. Things that are everywhere have no value. Things that are rare become precious. Your time, your attention, your presence. When these things are unlimited, they're worth absolutely nothing. When they're limited, they're worth gold. Conscious unavailability is the decision to make yourself rare intentionally, not because you're busy, because you understand that access to you must be earned, never assumed. Machiavelli warned, never appear too common. He understood that the prince who mingles daily with peasants loses his mystique, his power. When you're always available, you condition people to expect it. They stop seeing your availability as a gift. They start seeing it as an obligation. Your generosity becomes their entitlement. Then watch what happens when you can't be available. They become upset, frustrated, even angry. What changed? They got used to extracting value from you without reciprocity. Conscious unavailability prevents this toxic dynamic before it even begins. It establishes that your time has conditions: respect, reciprocity, consideration. This isn't selfishness. It's self-respect. When you become consciously unavailable, you force people to think about you differently. They must consider whether what they're asking is worth your time, whether they've earned access to you. This automatically filters your life. People who don't respect your time eliminate themselves. Perfect. Let them go. The people who remain understand that precious things aren't free. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. Becoming consciously unavailable means disappointing people. It means saying no, accepting that some people will call you selfish. Let them, because the alternative is spending your entire life being available for everyone except yourself. Every yes to someone else is a no to yourself. This isn't balance. It's sacrifice. And sacrifice without reciprocity is just slow suicide. Conscious unavailability reclaims your life. It says, my time belongs to me first. My presence is my choice to give, not someone's right to take. People respond to behavior, not declarations. Show them through consistent action that your time is protected, and they'll learn quickly. Conscious unavailability exposes who truly values you versus who values what you provide. A life surrounded by takers is a life spent empty. Conscious unavailability stops the drainage. It makes your time precious again. And here's the most counterintuitive part. When you become less available, the quality of your interactions improves dramatically. People show up differently when they know your time is limited. They're more present, more grateful, more intentional. Scarcity creates quality. Abundance creates carelessness. Right access to me is earned. In the comments if you commit to protecting your time. Principle 7. Rebirth through solitude terrifies most people. Not because it's painful, because it's revealing. When you're alone, truly alone, without distractions, without external stimulation, you're forced to confront yourself, the thoughts you avoided, the truths you suppressed, the person you became versus who you wanted to be. Most people absolutely cannot handle this. They fill every moment with noise, distractions, anything to avoid the silence. Why? Because in silence, they might have to face the fact that they don't like who they've become. So they don't, they avoid, they numb themselves. But solitude isn't punishment, it's purification. Every moment spent in strategic solitude is a moment spent burning away the false, the social conditioning, the masks, the borrowed beliefs. What remains after the fire is real. Machiavelli understood there's a third fundamental impulse, the desire for authenticity, the need to become who you truly are instead of what everyone needs you to be. This transformation only happens in solitude, because society is a mirror that reflects a distorted version of you. Solitude breaks the mirror. In the absence of external reflection, you're forced to generate your own. To determine your own worth, to define your own identity without reference to anyone's opinion. This process is brutal. Most people abandon it within days. They convince themselves they need connection. What they really need is to avoid self-examination. True solitude isn't just physical isolation. You can be surrounded by people and still be in solitude if you've withdrawn your energy from external validation. This is the solitude of the strong, the deliberate choice to exist separate from the herd, to think unapproved thoughts, to become someone society didn't design. It's lonely because you're no longer playing the same game as everyone else. And most people will never understand this path. They'll say, "You're not the person you used to be." They're right. You're not. You killed that person in solitude. This death is necessary. The old self must die for the true self to emerge. Solitude is the furnace. You are the metal. What comes out the other side is harder, sharper, purer. But the process isn't comfortable. You'll question everything. You'll feel the pull to return to how things were. Don't do it. That pull is weakness disguised as connection. Sit with the discomfort. Let it teach you. Because on the other side lies something most people never experience. Psychological self-sufficiency. The kind where you authentically don't need anyone's opinion to know who you are. Where your sense of self isn't dependent on social feedback. This is true freedom. Not the false freedom of doing what you want. The deep freedom of being who you are without excuse or explanation. And it only comes through solitude. What you confront in solitude won't be pretty. You'll see your weaknesses, your destructive patterns, the lies you told yourself, but you'll also see your potential, the parts of you that were suppressed, the strength you never used. Solitude gives you space to rebuild, not into what you were, into something new. This reconstruction takes time, months, perhaps years. During this time, you'll lose people, guaranteed. People attached to the old version of you, those who benefited from your availability. Good. They weren't your people anyway. The people who remain aren't there for what you give them. They're there for who you are. This is rebirth, a real psychological death and resurrection. The person who emerges from sustained solitude is colder, sharper, more focused, less interested in approval, less affected by criticism, harder to manipulate, harder to control, harder to break. This is what Machiavelli meant when he spoke of being both lion and fox. When you return to the world after this transformation, people immediately sense the difference. You're not performing anymore, not seeking, not explaining. You just exist, powerfully, independently. And your absence now becomes your weapon. Because people know you can disappear. You've done it before. You'll do it again. Access to you isn't guaranteed. You've completed the transformation from resource to force, from someone who reacts to the world to someone who shapes it. Write rebirth in the comments if you're ready to enter your own transformative solitude. You've just received 7 laws, 7 principles that separate those who get exploited from those who hold real power. 7 truths that most people will spend their entire lives avoiding because They're profoundly uncomfortable. They require you to accept solitude in exchange for authenticity. Most people will never make that trade. They'll choose comfort over power, connection over clarity, being loved over being respected. They'll stay in their patterns, always available, always seeking approval. They'll wonder why nothing changes, why people keep taking advantage of them. And they'll never realize the answer is simple. They made themselves the common. You're different, or at least you can be. You now hold information that completely changes the game. The understanding that absence creates value, that withdrawal isn't weakness, that strategic unavailability is self-respect made visible. But information alone changes nothing. Action changes everything. And the required action is simple but brutal. Disappear. Not forever, not dramatically, strategically. Call to action. If this video hit you right in the heart, if you feel it speaks directly to your situation, like this video immediately. Why? Because YouTube watches this. The algorithm decides who sees this message based on your engagement. By liking now, you help other people who are being exploited discover these principles. You help them reclaim their power. It's that simple. Next, write in the comments which of these 7 laws shook you the most. Is it strategic disappearance, conscious unavailability, rebirth through solitude? Just write the name of the principle and why it resonates with you. I personally read every comment. I respond to each one. And your comment could help someone else understand they're not alone in this struggle. Subscribe to this channel and activate the notification bell. Why should you subscribe? Because I don't create superficial content here. I'm not here to tell you what you want to hear. I'm here to tell you what you need to hear. I regularly publish videos on personal power, the psychology of manipulation, how to stop being exploit strategies to regain control of your life, and comfortable truths no one else dares to say. If you want more of this raw, unfiltered content that actually changes lives, you must subscribe, because YouTube will only show you my next videos if you subscribe and activate notifications. It's the only way to ensure you won't miss the next message that could transform your life. Share this video with one person. Just one. Someone you know who gets walked over. Someone who's always available for others, but never for themselves. Someone who needs to understand the power of strategic absence. Send them this video with this simple message. Watch this to the end. It will change your perspective. You could literally change the course of their life with a simple share. Finally, tell me in the comments where you are in your journey. Simply write, starting. If you just realized you need to change and transition. If you're already disappearing, strategically reborn. If you've already gone through your transformative sala today, want to see where you all are. I want to create a community of people who refuse to be tools for others. A community of people who understand that scarcity creates value. A community of forces, not resources. You now have the tools. You now have the knowledge. You now have the choice. What you do next determines everything. Either you return to your life and continue being too available, too accessible, too ordinary, or you disappear strategically, rebuild yourself in solitude, and return as a force nobody can ignore. The decision is yours. But remember this, the world forgets your constant presence, but it never forgets your strategic absence. Become rare, become precious, become unforgettable. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, disappear.